Okay, I was talking to a gentleman. He's trying to overturn a case that he's working on, and he finally understands what I was explaining to him. It's called a conspiracy to deprive rights under the color of law. Okay, and that clearly shows it's easy to prove if you use the law. Now, this conspiracy to deprive rights, that means he's being denied effective assistance of counsel. He's actually fighting against his own attorneys. He didn't realize that till I explained to him and had him read the rules of professional conduct, and he said, none of that's happening. I said, right, exactly. Your lawyer took an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. Lawyers, judges, cops, all public servants take an oath to the Constitution. To serve and protect the Constitution. The Constitution was written to serve and protect you from people operating under the color of law, which is basically abuse of power. Okay, so I told him that he needs to understand when he files his complaints, he must also mention the public trust. And the public trust is stipulated in the public trust doctrine, and it clearly tells you that the legal system is part of the public trust, and they are there to maintain it. That means they are to go, when they're to abide by the law. But that doesn't happen. That's why I show people all these laws that they need to know before talking to a lawyer, a judge, And why do I got to know this? If they know that's their job, why aren't they doing it? And I can't answer that. Only they can. Okay? I mean, I have answers, but I'm the wrong person to be asking. I'm just giving you the law. Okay, so I told him you have to explain that the public trust doctrine, it clearly states in the preamble of the rules of professional conduct, lawyers are to do what's in the public interest. All laws are supposed to be created in the public interest, in the interest of the many, not the few, and maintain the public trust. And part of the public trust is not just the land, the water, the air, but it's also like hospitals, the medical system, the legal system. That's part of the public trust. So it's in the public interest to abide by the rules of professional conduct, because that's what creates effective assistance to counsel. Any violations of the rules and the codes violates your constitutional right to effective assistance of counsel. So if you don't have effective assistance of counsel, you're not going to get a fair trial. If you don't get a fair trial, due process doesn't exist. So thus, the only way you're going to get effective assistance of counsel is if you demand it. Just like anything else in court. You want a quick and speedy trial, you got to demand it. You want, in a criminal case, a probable cause hearing, it's not going to happen unless you demand it. A lot of things aren't going to happen in court unless you demand it. So when these people say, so what do you mean? I have to be a lawyer in order to get a fair trial? Basically, yes. You can't afford it, but you can afford the time to read these laws, just like I did. But see, I had to go through the Dewey Decimal System, and right now it's pretty easy for you because you have the internet. So it's the public trust doctrine is a legal principle that protects the public use of natural resources such as water and land for the benefit of the public. The doctrine states that the public owns these resources and the government is responsible for their protection and maintenance. Okay, for their protection and maintenance. And that includes the legal system. The public doctrine has its origins in Roman law, which recognized that the air, rivers, sea, and seashore were common property and could not be privately owned. That goes for the legal system, your healthcare system, public lands. Mineral rights belong to you. Okay, navigation, fisheries, swimming, boating, preserving natural habitats, scientific study, and open space. The public doctrine is enforced by the judiciary, which they don't do it unless you demand it. some kids in, I forgot what state it was, Oklahoma, presented that to court because the neighboring lands were being polluted, and when they did, the court said, my bad, let's go by the law, and things got fixed. Okay, that's I posted that on my page, Legal Reform. Okay, public trust doctrine. Okay, people, what does a public trust doctrine do? The common law public trust doctrine protects sovereign lands such as tides, submerged lands, and the beds of navigable waters for the benefit, use, of enjoyment of the public. These lands are held in trust by the state of California for statewide public and used for further purposes of the trust. Okay, what is the public trust doctrine of 1842? The meaning of the public trust. Meaning of the public trust in English, an organization that manages money for a particular charity or group, people who are poor or in need of help. And that includes your tax dollars. Your tax dollars are part of the public trust, you know. The IRS is part of the public trust. And those tax dollars are meant to benefit the public interest. That's how you maintain the public trust, okay? Why is the public trust so important? Public trust is a pillar of democracy. Every republic is dependent on democracy. A republic cannot exist without democracy, and democracy is contingent on, well, the main principle is the rule of law. Okay, public trust is a pillar of democracy, fostering debate, participation, encouraging compliance with the law, and facilitating reforms. Now that's what legal reform is about. The only reform I'm trying to facilitate here is to make sure you know any and every law possible before you step in front of it. Because when it comes down to it, if you read the rules of professional conduct, your lawyer isn't doing that. You're actually fighting your lawyer in the court. You know, and the time involved, people say you don't, and on the internet says for criminal trials, a quick and speedy trial. And a lot of lawyers like to say, no, that's only in criminal trials. But no, in the rules of professional conduct, it requires them to be diligent. It would be competent to be diligent. It would be, expediting litigation requires diligence. That would be those are three laws that aren't happening. Okay, so I'm just giving you a brief explanation on the rules of professional conduct. You should really look that up because that's not happening. Okay, literature shows that the public trust institution is a necessary condition for the process of investment, innovation, and trade to drive economic growth. What disqualifies you from public trust clearance? Okay, criminal record. Felonies or multiple criminal offenses can immediately disqualify you. Even misdemeanors could raise eyebrows depending on the severity and timing of the offense. So if you have multiple felonies or criminal offenses, you cannot obtain a public trust clearance. That means you can't see any records that are secret and super secret, and the files from the FBI, CIA, DEA, if you have multiple convictions, you're not allowed access. I wonder if they'll give President Trump his access. What is betrayal of the public trust? Really, it refers to the oath of office. The end of that idea, the idea of the public trust is connected with the oath of office or of officer. And if he violates the oath of office, he then betrays that trust. You cannot violate the public trust. Okay? And politicians are part of the public trust. When they take the oath of office, they took not just an oath of office to uphold and defend the Constitution, but uphold what it's meant to defend you against abuse of power. Okay? And that's under the color of law. That's what people don't understand what I mean by they're being persecuted under the color of law. They think it's legal because judges and lawyers are doing it, but if they check the law themselves, they'll find out that it's illegal, so that was just abuse of power. Okay, they did something illegal to make you look like a criminal, and it doesn't matter what court it's in. I seen them make parents look like criminals to take away their children. I seen people I think it was probate court, and I gave them the rules of professional conduct, the code of judicial conduct, the complaint form, spent an hour with them going over it. By the time they went court, they started running off at the mouth, and things ended pretty quick. I don't know the outcome. Most of the time, people don't even talk to me anymore after they win. Actually, nobody talks to me anymore. What does it mean to serve the public trust? Public service is a public trust. So that's what we're going to go over next. Public service is a public trust, and we're going to go over the list of public servants, okay, requiring you to place loyalty to the Constitution, the laws, and ethical principles above private gain. Okay, that goes for politics, okay? Politics are in the public trust, as well as the legal system. If you're taking an oath to the Constitution, you are a public servant. And even if you work for like the Attorney General's office and he takes the oath of public service, everybody in that office is required to go by the same obligations as he's required. A public trust is a judicial system, means that people believe the courts are fair, unbiased, and work well. Well, if you read the rules of professional conduct and the code of judicial conduct, you will see you won't believe that the courts are fair, unbiased, and work well. That's what I'm trying to teach you. Who said public office is a public trust? Public office is a public trust for the President of the United States, Governor of Cleveland of New York for Vice President in the United States. Okay, so anybody in public office is part of the public trust. And remember, violating the oath is punishable by removal from public service, fines, and incarceration. One cannot violate the oath of office. It's not written in stone, but it's in the Constitution, the United States Constitution. Okay, he just said, nobody's bringing this stuff up. What are the benefits of a public trust clearance? Is a public trust hard to gain? What will disqualify you from the CIA? What shows up in a public trust background check? Review of personal and professional history. The investigation includes checks of the applicant's employment history, personal references, education verification, in some cases interviews with acquaintances and former employers to vouch for the applicant's character and trustworthiness. Well, that doesn't happen in politics now, does it? Can a public trust be sued? Generally, no. You cannot sue a public trust directly. Again, that's because trust is a legal entity and not a person. It's possible, however, to sue the trustee. That means your politicians, lawyers, and judges of a trust, whether that trust is revocable or irrevocable. As mentioned, in the case of a creditor lawsuit, and a trustee of a revocable living trust could be used. Okay, so there's a lot of questions that are being raised here, and these are just samples of a lot of questions people ask. Okay, and so the internet's giving you the answers. I'm just pointing this out. What is a breach of the public trust? Public corruption is a breach of the public's trust by government officials who use their public office to obtain personal gain. It's a violation of federal law or any federal, state, or local government official to ask or receive anything of value in exchange for or because of any official act. Now, nobody does that. Nobody. Now I'm clearly showing you it's against the law. Okay, that's all I'm saying here, okay? That goes for politicians, lawyers, judges, doctors, nurses, cops, anybody in the military, anybody that's ever been in the military. Because once you take the oath, That's for life. It's heard some people say in the military, blood in, blood out. You gotta love the Marines, right? They'll never betray the trust. Not to say anybody else in the military would, but I know a lot of Marines. How does a public trust doctrine requires a state to hold in trust designated resources for the benefit of people? Traditionally, public trust applied to commerce and fishing in navigable waters, but its uses were expanded in California in 1971 to include fish, wildlife habitation, and recreation, and that's not including preservation of wildlife. That's including. Are public servants required to identify themselves? But the right to know the identity of a police officer during an interaction stems from the basic principles of transparency and accountability rather than the actual law. Neither California or federal law explicitly mandates officers must identify themselves, but it's in the code of conduct, so their code of conduct, so they're supposed to. There's a theory of public trust. Public trust is a doctrine, a legal principle establishing certain natural and cultural resources are reserved for the public use. A lot of people are complaining about medical issues, medical bills, losing houses, livelihoods, businesses because of medical bills. If it was still in the public trust, nobody would be worrying about that. We would have what other countries call universal health care. But what these other countries aren't saying, so let me say that quiet part out loud. Okay, the medical system, medical health, is supposed to be in the public trust. You're just used to it not being that way because years ago, politicians and lawyers decided to privatize it. That's illegal. You can't take something out of public trust and privatize it. But they've been doing it. You're just used to it. You should read up on the law a little bit. Is the president a public servant? In the United States, we hold elections for many public offices. The people we elect for president, senators, and representatives are public servants and work for the federal government. Okay, so yes, the president is a public service. Violating the oath of office is violating the public trust. Okay, so let's get that clear. Okay, it's not just because of the future president, the present president. I'm talking about all of them. Okay, I'm apolitical. Okay, not that I don't care about politics. But when it comes to making decisions, when it comes to the public interest, I prefer to use the public trust, which is the law, to form an unbiased opinion. Okay, I talk about the Magna Carta a lot. The public trust doctrine is a principle. The sovereign holds it in trust that the public use some resources such as shoreline between the high and low tide lines, regardless of private property ownership. Okay, so there's a lot of arguments going on about that where people think they own the shoreline, but this tells you otherwise. All right, depending on how much money they pump into the court will depend. I think we all know that the legal system, scales of justice are a monetary scale. You know, you're worth your weight in gold. You know, justice goes to the highest bidder. You want to stop that? Learn some laws, okay? Or at least until you get your law degree. And the education system was also in the public trust. And since they privatized it, that's what's making it impossible for you to get that law degree that you could probably get. Okay, let's go. Okay, so I went over to public trust. Okay. Let's go over public servants. Sorry. Okay, a public servant is a person who is elected or appointed to the public office or who works for a government department or agency. Elected officials, public employees, and people appointed to state and local boards and commissions. Public servants work for a central and local government, answer to the government, not a political party. Okay? Public servants work for central and local government and answer to the government, not a political party. I'm talking about the FBI, the DOJ, the DEA, the courts, any lawyer. Okay, they are public servants. All lawyers are public servants. They will deny it, but once you get into the law, especially if you read the rules of professional conduct, they are public servants. They took an oath to serve and protect the Constitution, and the Constitution was written to serve and protect you from the likes of anybody that violates the oath of public service. Okay, they are responsible for disclosing waste, fraud, abuse, corruption, satisfying their obligations as citizens, including paying taxes, adhering to laws and regulations that provide equal opportunities for all Americans, not using their public office for public gain, acting impartially and not giving preferential treatment to any private organization or individual, protecting and conserving federal property. Some say that working as a public service is rewarding and they feel driven by their care for a mission and their goal of making a difference. Others emphasize the diversity of federal workplace and positive work environment. So if you want to look up public service and definition meaning, okay, if people ask who are considered public servants, public employees, elected officials. Oh, here it is. Who's considered? Police officers, judges, firefighters, as well as jobs that keep the government operating, such as accounting, finance, information, technology, logistics management. What makes you a public servant? Public service and administration refer to roles in a community that strive to help people, but typically not within political realm. Public service careers involve working directly in the public to provide help and support people facing a crisis or other serious issues. What is another name for a public servant? Strongest match, civil servant, elected officials. Weak matches: government worker, office holder, official, public employee, public official. Okay. What jobs are public servants? Emergency management, public education, public health, public interest law services, public safety, early childhood education, public and school library services. I mean, who the hell is maintaining that? Are cops public servants? Okay, are cops public servants? The windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset provides currently reduced, eliminate Social Security benefits for more than 2 million public servants. Wow, I didn't know that. Eliminate Social Security benefits for more than 2 million public police, including police officers, teachers, and firefighters who have paid into Social Security but are often penalized due to. Oh man, that is so messed up. What jobs count as public service? That includes employers such as U.S. military, public, elementary, and secondary schools, public colleges, universities, public and child and family service agencies, and special government districts, including entities such as public transportation, water, bridge, district, or housing authorities. Are lawyers public servants? A lawyer is a person who can represent a side or legal proceeding. It's a profession. Their status may change with their employment. If one's job, whereas public defender, perhaps a public servant. If a district attorney, if as a district attorney, then a civil servant. Okay. Are healthcare workers public servants? Okay, so, but it'll tell you they are. What jobs are considered civil service? Intelligence analysts, communication specialists, postal workers. Okay, but there's a whole list. All right, I just thought I'd go through it with you. Why it's important to know what's in the public trust, or specifically the public trust doctrine, and anybody that violates the public trust is violating the oath of office. And violating the oath of office, penalties are fines, removal from public service, and incarceration. Okay, but I'm just going over as a judge, a public servant. See, judges are public servants, okay? And judges don't like to even abide. If it's not on camera, you won't catch a judge abiding by the code of judicial conduct. Enforcing the rules of professional conduct. You won't find lawyers abiding by the rules of professional conduct, enforcing them, reporting them. Nobody does what they're supposed to. It just seems like a lot of these public servants don't want to work. They don't want to do their job. Our prosecutors, public servants. Prosecutors are typically civil servants who possess a university degree in law and traditional training in the administration of justice. In some countries, such as France and Italy, they are classified as judges. Teacher, public service in Texas. What are considered public service workers? Is a cop a civil servant? Okay, so there's a lot of questions here, and so you may have a question here that you may not even thought of, and you'll find an answer to. Okay, this pops at legal reform. Just teaching you the legal reform you need. Get out there and let everybody know, what a public service is and what their obligations are. And quite literally, I mean, some people think that, because they're a public servant, they sit upon a throne. No. They answer to you. Remember, they're always supposed to do what's in the public interest and maintain the public trust. That's a legal obligation of all lawyers. It's in the rules of professional conduct, which is basically their job description. Or it says in the rules of professional conduct, the legal obligations of all lawyers and judges. Okay, thank you and good night. I just thought it was important I get this to you.